Hello everybody, it's Thea. Thanks so much for being here and welcome back to Garden Goddess Tarot. And it is, what day is it? I think it's the end of January. Hard to tell. It's winter. And we're back with another monthly tarot roundup. In this case though, we are going to be doing a depth year update. Tell you how the first month of depth year has gone, as well as I have a little bit of a deck declutter to do. We're going to talk our way through some decks that I want to get rid of because part of this depth year for me is really narrowing my practice, so to speak. So yeah, we're going to talk all about that today, which should be a fun time. Oh. But first, as always, we're going to do the mandatory garden updates. And oh my goodness gracious, we got more snow. There is, as we speak, about 1.5 feet of snow on top of everything. Probably very blown out right now because the light is just reflecting off of the snow and it's everywhere, and oh my gosh. But yes, it's winter. I live in Canada, so this is not strange by any stretch. This is completely normal. I just hate it. I'm not one for winter sports. I really am not excited to get out there and, you know, snowshoe or snowmobile or ski, etc, etc. So just patiently waiting for it to kind of go away so I can get out in the garden again. So that is the status of the garden right now. But that being said, I have allowed myself a smidgen of pleasure in the realm of gardening, and I have pre-ordered some beautiful roses that I'm going to make a hedge out of. And I'm so excited. It's kind of just like switched back on the gardening brain, which I kind of like shut off in like November because it's like, okay, it's over, it's done. That part of my brain doesn't need to work right now. Kind of, you know, is shelved for the time being. But in my desperation for some joy this month, I allowed myself a shred of excitement, and I've pre-ordered 3 bare root roses from David Austin, like iconic UK rose producer. Been breeding beautiful roses, English roses, for a long time. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6. No, 8. Bad at counting. I think I've got 8 or so David Austin roses already. I love them. They do well here so far. Fingers crossed. I've only been growing them for 3 years this year, so hopefully they really get into their stride. But I love them. They smell joyous. They just bring me so much happiness. So we're adding 3 more to the family, and it's going to be 3 Alnwick roses. So I will insert a gorgeous picture of them because they're so pretty. Anyway, yes, so that is the excitement on the gardening front. So enough about that, back into the world of tarot, which is what I think our main focus today is going to be. I'm going to start off by talking about the depth year and what decks this month I've been kind of diving into. Most of them are to be expected. There's a couple that are a little bit of a surprise to me this month, but I just couldn't put them down, so why fight a good thing? Where should we start? Let's start with the ones that are probably to be expected. First off, at the beginning of the month, I probably used this one the most. This is Tarot of the Spirit. I spent some lovely time one afternoon edging and corner rounding it, and it turned out really nice. Here's I still haven't figured out the best way to use this. This is the translucent Tree of Life that you're supposed to put over the cards, but I know the shape of the Tree of Life, so I can kind of gather what they're getting at, and I think it's most appropriate in the minor arcana, which look more like this, where you can kind of see a shape. There's like a square and then whatever that is, and it lines up in a way. And I don't know, I'm still not sold on that aspect of this deck, but the art, the colors, and the keywords in the images in this deck, here I'll show you some while I'm rambling, are really, what can I say, intuitive, I guess. It reminds me a little bit of Shimmering Veil Tarot, which is nice. Smaller, easier to shuffle, but also mass market, not indie, which is, I love the Shimmering Veil. We all know I love the Shimmering Veil, but I like how this is a more accessible kind of, not version of it, because it's not the same in any stretch. But like, if you like the kind of art style that's in the Shimmering Veil, but it's outside of your, you know, realm of acquisition, then the Tarot of the Spirit is a classic, and it's not going anywhere, and it's great. I'll show you some more cards, but I like it. It's a bit thothy. It's its own thing. I'm not gonna say it's not a thoth deck at all. It's its own thing, but it does really lean into the Kabbalah, which is nice. And so far the way I've been reading it fairly intuitively is great. I pull in the meanings from the little white book. I still haven't got the big books by Pamela Eakins and Joyce, but maybe if I continue to use and enjoy it like I have been, it might be something I consider down the road to expand my knowledge of it, but I'm not like jumping in head first into the giant books just yet. I'd like to get to know the cards a little bit better, because like basically I've been using this for 3-card draws. Lots of within without advice kind of spreads, or you know, your standard past, present, future, embrace, release, and accept kind of 3-card spreads around that nature, and it's nice and it's good, and it's a tarot deck, which, oh, I don't know, I'm in a weird place with tarot right now. Everything I pick up feels the same to me, and I think that's a me problem. That's not the deck's fault. That's definitely a me problem. I feel stale, and I'm sure it's the weather related. I'm sure it's seasonal. Maybe I need to grab some more oracle decks just to, you know, inject a little bit more life into me. But like, or maybe I'm using tarot too much. I don't know. People don't talk about that, but is there a point that if you use tarot too much, it becomes stale, it stagnates itself in a weird way? I don't know. I don't know. There's things I obviously am still diving deep with, need to kind of work on. There's questions I have to ask, but you know, am I using tarot too much? Am I using it not enough? Am I using it wrong? That's a rhetorical question. There's no wrong way to use tarot, really. But I don't know. Oh, I didn't even show you my lovely edging. There it is. Beautiful. Lots of fun purple colors. And I think purple was a great choice just because of the, I don't know, I think it just reflects the vibe of this deck. So that is Tarot of the Spirit. That's pretty. The quartz are nice in this one too. Anyway, yeah, those are my initial thoughts. Re-depth here, re-Tarot of the Spirit, which I've been playing with January. I've also pulled in a couple of other tarot decks. This one was one I had meant to go deeper with. This is the Outgrow Yourself Tarot / Oracle, which is a Thoth-based tarot oracle. I mentioned it in the last video when I was going over the depth here, and it's great because I can use it as both, and I do use it as both. I will pull it in with the intention of only reading the oracle message, and I do that. I will read it on its own with the intention of focusing on the Thoth aspects of it, like the more tarot structured aspects of it, and it's really nice. It's not as deep as your regular Crowley deck because the imagery is, well, keep waving it in front of my face looking at it myself. I will show you while I talk. The imagery is not as detailed. There's little nods back to the Thoth deck and the numbers of element, like numbers of flowers or wandy, sticky things and that sort of thing, as well as the keyword, obviously. But for the most part, the scenes are a lot more straightforward than, well, because we all know the Thoth deck just crams everything into those images. There's so much in them. So this is a facsimile of that, but it's a nice facsimile that has the added layer of a simple oracle message, and I really like it, and it's great. And it's been going really well with, this is by Acta Spaman. I will link everything down below if you're looking for it. This is an independent deck from Sweden, and it is wonderful, and it goes really well with this one. I dusted off my Black Lily Tarot, and it goes so well with the Outgrow Yourself Oracle. This is by Aya Rosen, and I think it's available on GameCrafter now. Anyway, this is a really cute little tarot deck. This is one where you kind of have to like check my preconceived notions about tarot at the door, because it's, again, a more simplified, boiled down essence of tarot. I'll show you. The cards themselves, like, they have the, you know, your suits have all of like your wands and your pentacles and your swords and your cups. They're there, but like the traditional symbolism of tarot is not. So it's almost like a pip deck, that has people in it. It's like Pips with feeling with people. It's very raw. The images are, I don't know, they're evocative. It's a little, I guess, how can I describe it? I want to say dirty, but like not in like a dirty rude type of way, but like dirty in like a rough around the edges kind of way. And I quite like that. And it's really great to just pull a couple of cards, have a conversation with the deck, kind of dive into this really, it's like an otherworldly space. The backgrounds are all black, so there's no depth. All of the images are like right in your face. There's no like depth of field in the images. It's all like boom, right there. It's a plane of distilled emotion based around the archetypes and essence of the tarot. And it's really great. And it, because of that, the black backgrounds and like the two-dimensional distilled imagery of it makes it match the Outgrow Yourself Oracle quite well. So those are ones that I've been diving headfirst into this month. If you've been keeping an eye on me on Instagram, you'll probably know that because you see them pop up fairly often. But yeah, so those are those. And then another one that's kind of expected. Well, I'm not surprised by it. Soul Cards 2. This is the one I picked up in December in the Slight Panic before No Buy. And I know this one thing you're really not supposed to do, but I did it and I'm not mad. I edged it. Look at how pretty that edging turned out. I used a bunch of different, again, like purples and blues, and it just goes so well. I haven't mixed this in with Soul Cards 1 yet. These are by Deborah Koff Chapin. We'll talk up and down about her because her art is amazingly phenomenal. There's 2 decks, Soul Cards 1. This is Soul Cards 2. They're the same size. The backs are a little different. Like they're the same pattern, but just that one's like a bluey color. This one's a more purpley. So whatever. I might mix them together to make a mega Soul Cards deck, but so far I haven't. So far I've just been kind of drawing images from this one, and I've kind of been mixing them with everything. Soul Cards is one of those decks that just, it matches everything. You put it with something else and it sings. The colors synchronize. It creates magic. It sends my brain in all sorts of neat places. And it's really cool, and I've been really enjoying it. One thing I've learned that I don't like doing with it is just pulling a daily card at the beginning of the day, which is so weird because they're so expansive. It almost leaves like too many options. Like I'll be sitting there thinking about the card throughout my day and like, how does my day match up with it? And I get kind of like anxious about it, which is really weird. Doesn't make any sense, but like this is when I pulled a few days ago. Not a few days ago, probably over a week ago. What is time? Anyway, I pulled this one morning and I like set it out on my like downstairs vanity, and I was like looking at it throughout the day, and it like made me stressed. I was like, what about what part of my day embodies this energy? And I'm like, is it this part? Is it this part? Does that make sense? And I was like overthinking it way too much. Like I am prone to overthinking things quite a bit. But anyway, so I like this paired with other things. On its own, it is not the way I like to read them, is basically what I'm getting at by saying this. It's too expansive. I need tarot to kind of ground and pull the message focus a little bit more based on like a 3-card spread, and then you'll have this, and then it tells more of a story instead of it just being so open to interpretation when it's just the image. So that's my point there. But so yes, I've kind of boiled down how I like to use soul cards, which is a great accomplishment of a depth here if I do say so myself, which is good. So yeah, I've been liking using this and will continue to probably forever. They're great. Like Oracle, as oracles go, you really don't get much better than that one. And then the last deck that's a bit of a surprise to me that I picked up and then just couldn't put down this last month is actually the Majestic Earth, which is it had a bit of a hiatus with me for a while, and then I just one day grabbed it to do a reading for someone with the Hellenic Oracle, and I just haven't put it away. It's everything my adventurous heart craves. Like what I would give to stand at the edge of a cliff overlooking a gorge as the sun goes down behind the mountains, like that sublime earth energy that kind of fills your whole body in a situation like that. I crave those moments, and this deck gives me them, or like a facsimile of them. It's obviously not the same as being on top of a mountain and soaking up the exhilarating essence of the spirit of that place, but it's as close as you're gonna get in a tarot deck, and I love it. So I've been reading with this. It's so clear. I don't even really use the keywords that much. The quotes are a little weird on it. I like how they're non-gendered, which is nice, but still a little bit of getting used to they take, but but yeah, no, the images are just, the only way I can describe them is they're sublime. Like, this deck holds a great respect for the earth and its beauty, and that's what I need. I feel like that's what my soul needs these days. Look at that, the lovers. There's two swans. Don't you just want to be there, hanging out? Oh, the Fool. They're all good. They all make me go, catch my breath. Look at that. There's a little dude in that one up at the top. There's some other people down there. It's like, no, I'm free. I'm gonna do my best. I'm just out into the world doing my dang thing. The world is my oyster. There are infinite possibilities. Let's do it. That's the kind of encouragement that I need. Oh, even the death card is sublime. Look at that. So nice. Anyway, I'm sorry I rambled on about this. This is a tricky one to get, but this, though, would be one that one could make themselves fairly easily on make playing cards, though. If you're pining after this and you are a sensible person that doesn't want to spend $1,500 or however much it's going for on eBay, doing some quick Googling and finding some beautiful sublime images of your own, you could throw together a tarot or oracle deck on make playing cards pretty easily. Just saying. Just saying. That's my advice there. Which, if I wasn't able to get this at the reasonable price that I did, was probably what I would have done. So, alright. Those are the decks that have kind of been amusing me this past month. But also what has been weighing on my mind a lot is all of the other ones that I have. And there's a good chunk of them that are on the chopping block that I'm just not reaching for, or that irk me for one reason or other. And we're gonna go over those today. And I'm gonna talk about why I'm getting rid of them or why they are going into purgatory. So that's where we're gonna dive right into. Get a refreshing beverage before we start. I'm feeling I'm gonna be talking a lot. Top of the list. To no one's surprise, this one is finding its way out of my life in a very interesting way. This is the Oracle of Mystical Moments by Katrin Welz-Stein. It is highly modified by me, which makes it not able to be resold. I chopped the titles off the bottom, which makes the backs uneven. I don't know if you can tell. The lighting, there we go. Makes the backs uneven. And I also edged it very poorly in silver. Which, maybe not the worst idea at the time, but anyway, these images just don't do, actually that one kind of does, but most of these images just don't do anything for me. They do not spark my intuition. They do not provide messages in a like a downloadable way that so many other decks do. I don't know why. I can't explain it. I obviously bought it, so I thought I was going to like it. I thought something about it was going to fill a space in my, you know, tarot toolkit that hadn't been filled. But what I learned was there wasn't a space that needed filled by a deck of this sort. And another deck which is of a similar vibe is also kind of squandering in that kind of same state. So we're gonna talk about it in a little bit. But for right now, this one is finding its way out into the world in a very unique and different way, which I think is great. So instead of me just being angry at it, which I was for a while, I am going through it and I am sending it off in small chunks of itself to special people in my life to add a little bit of joy, to send, you know, a bit of my experience out to them. So that one is essentially leaving my collection slowly but surely in an interesting way, but it is not a deck that I will be using for divination anytime soon. So that's the first one. The next one is this deck right here. This deck taught me a lesson, valuable lesson. That lesson being, never buy a deck just for one card, because the card never comes up. Like, there's a 1 in 78 chance that that card is gonna show up. So if you really love that card and you're not super jazzed about the rest of the deck, one, you're going to be mad that that card's not there when you want it. So that's not useful. And two, it's really dumb to buy a whole deck for one card. So the deck in question is the Wizard's Tarot by Barbara Moore, and I bought this deck because I saw this card and I had to have it. I didn't even look into a walkthrough to see all the other cards. I had a rough idea of what it was about and thought, oh, that might work, but this is so not a deck for me. I've edged it in black, so it is thoroughly modified. And I also hated the backs a lot, so I rebacked it. This is the first deck I've rebacked. So I used this lovely like smoky black marble, like contact paper. So it's kind of cool. It looks like, it matches the deck. It's like a smoky, wizardy, magic-y type of vibe. But it made it quite thick, so she's chunky. However, the cardstock was super thin and flimsy on this, the Llewellyn deck, and it thickened up the cards nicely, so it actually shuffles, well, it shuffled fine before, but it made it more sturdy. So it is a chunk now. It is a chunk. But the reason that I wanted this card so bad is because it looks just like me and my two friends in high school. Like down to the green Renaissance dress, our hairs, our faces. It looked like it was us. Like someone found a picture of us from when we were in high school and turned it into a tarot card. And I thought, that's a sign, I need this deck. I didn't need this deck. Also, these three friends do not hang out anymore. We've gone our completely separate ways for various reasons, and not only does this card make me happy sad, it also brings back weird memories. Like, it's like I'm happy about it because it exists, but at the same time it like reminds me of the situation now, and it also like it's weird. It's a very strange feeling that this card gives me. So I'm going to immortalize it forever in this video, and then I'm going to try my best to find a new home for this deck. I'll show you some of the other cards. The deck itself, it just isn't for me. It's not my jam. I do not vibe with this type of imagery super well. And I did the thing where I was really contemplating whether or not I should get rid of it or not. And I went through and I made like 3 or 4 piles. There was cards that I liked, cards that I loved, cards that were okay, and cards that I like disliked. And the vast majority of cards were in the like I was ambivalent about and disliked. And then there was, you know, 2 or 3 in the, oh, that's all right. And there was only 1 card in the, oh, I love that. So it's not one that is ever gonna get used in any capacity in my possession. So I'm going to find it a new home somehow. Someone is going to get this chunk of a deck. The guidebook, it's a Barbara Moore guidebook, and everybody talks up and down about them, but it's okay. I guess it's good if you're learning. You've never, you know, experienced tarot before ever, but I do not exactly know what the fuss is about there. Just throwing that out there. Unpopular opinion maybe, but I would recommend buying a copy of 78 Degrees of Wisdom and the Rider-Waite-Smith deck if you're starting out over something like this. You will get like oodles more information and like practical tarot knowledge with that combination than something like this. But that's just my unpopular opinion. So anywho, that is the Wizard's Tarot by Barbara Moore, and it is going to be leaving my possession right shortly. And it has taught me a very valuable lesson about how to go about finding which decks are going to work for you and which ones aren't. Right, I'm going to need to go a wee bit faster if we're going to be getting through this anytime soon. So the next deck on the chopping block is this one. And it's in an Uzi bag, but do not worry, it is not an Uzi deck. I still like those quite a bit, in fact. This is the Wildwood Tarot by Will Worthington. And John Matthews and Mark Ryan. There's a whole whack of them, but Will Worthington did the artwork and his legendary style. This deck is, well, I'm not gonna say I got mad at it, but usually you can tell how aggressively I have modified a deck, how much I like. I'm learning that if I have an urge to modify a deck, it's not gonna make me like it more. This one, I chopped all the borders off, so it's borderless. I edged it in black, and I also kind of colored on the backs with permanent marker to kind of hide the lines all the way around, and it turned out in a way I didn't particularly enjoy. I also had to relabel them all with their keywords and their numbers. So in permanent marker, there's the keyword, and then I've got a little bow and a number to kind of let me know which one it is. So after my, I'm not gonna say botched job, but I wasn't as perhaps careful as I could have been. It's not bad, but it really does not encourage me to pick it up and use it. So I'm having a hard time with this one. I don't know, maybe it's a seasonal thing, but this deck is one that encompasses the Wheel of the Year. I'm supposed to love it. If I love nature, you're supposed to love the Wildwood Tarot, right? We've all seen it. Here, I'll show you some cards. You can judge me based on my horrible modification. It's not that bad. I'm just really hard on myself. But it's a bit of a different system. It does not entirely line up with a Rider-Waite-Smith, so it's just something else for my brain to wrap itself around. Some of the cards are a nice interpretation of it, others kind of go their own way. Like, occasionally what I do when I'm trying to decide on a deck or not is, you know, I'll ask it a series of questions that would help me decide. And for one of them, I pulled the Five of Cups, which traditionally is, you know, it's the bottom of the suit of emotion. It's the, you go around, fives at the bottom, it's only up from there, but it's that, like, that card in this deck, the Five of Vessels, is ecstasy, which is the opposite, one would say, of the Five of Cups. So I'm sure there's some like hidden meaning that I could unpack and all that, but it's just, it's not the way I read. So I could have an open mind about it and just go with the flow like I do with the Black Lily Tarot, where I just kind of like check most of my preconceived tarot notions at the door. But with this one, I don't want to. And I also really don't like that the court cards are animals. Some people love that. Some people, that's like a selling point for this deck, but animal energy in me just I don't get my like spiritual messages from animals as a rule. Like, animal decks and I just generally don't jive. So I'm always like sort of disappointed when a couple of courts come up in this deck. So anyway, this one is on the chopping block. It has its book. Its book is here. It's a good book. And like, this always happens. When you go to declutter stuff, you start looking at it and you're like, well, it's good. It's not so bad. Maybe I just need to give it another try. But I honestly haven't picked it up in months. So anywho, that's the Wildwood Tarot. And that's where I'm sitting with it at the moment. Let me know your experience with it down below. I know it's a ride or die for a lot of people, but I want it to be. Like, I'm such a earthy and green person. I want this to work for me, but it just doesn't. So maybe it's I need to spend more time with it. Maybe it's time to pass it on situation. Not sure, but anywho, there's that one. Here's another one that I thought I was gonna like, and I bought this to go with the tarot deck. Don't ever do this. Don't ever buy an oracle deck specifically to go with one tarot deck, especially if that one tarot deck isn't one that like you absolutely love, ride or die, use all the time, because you're never gonna use the oracle deck. The oracle deck in question is the Messages from the Mermaids deck by Karen Kay. This is an impulse Hay House sale purchase. We've all done it. Hay House has their 50% off sales. I got this for 10 Canadian dollars, which is absolute peanuts. Like, that is the cheapest you'll ever find a deck in Canada that isn't used. And I thought, I've heard good things. Some people really love this. I could work with it. The keywords are nice. I like how diverse the art is. It's cute and pretty. But it's such a positive, unbalanced, affirmation-y style deck that I really, really don't reach for those kind of messages. And it's just one keyword on the images. The art's beautiful. Like, no qualms there. It is really cute. But I just don't, especially, and even if I'm using the deck that I bought it to go with, which is the Mermaid Tarot, Dame Darcy's Mermaid Tarot, which only I tend to pull out during the summer anyway. I don't know, I don't even really pull it out with that one. So I haven't even edged it. So if I haven't even edged it, that's a pretty good sign that it's not one that's going to be sticking around for too long. So it's cute. It's really nice. It's nice. And it's funny because I used to hate that word. I used to hate the word nice. Because I'm like, oh, couldn't you think of something better to say about it? But in this case, like not really. Like, it's nice. There's nothing like glaringly wrong with it. It just doesn't suit the way I read and messages I like to receive. But they're beautiful. Like, look at that. Like, how often do you see body diversity, especially in a mermaid deck? Like, come on. I appreciate that greatly, but I'm not sold on the messages. And I'm not really a water baby either. Like, I like the sea, but it's not really how I interact with the sea, you know? And mermaids are supposed to be kind of, you know, dangerous, sneaky, siren type ladies, you know? Mermaids are trouble. Anywho, I think I'm gonna be passing this one on, so that one is gonna go. Anyway, hands up if anybody else has been caught in impulse purchases during a Hay House sale. I know better. I know better. Will not do it again. No matter how cheap. If you're not going to use it, just take some space. And that's done. The next one that I'm getting rid of is entirely my own fault. Because I made one that's better. This is the Mythic Oracle by Carissa Malato and Michelle Lee / Raven Phelan. And when I first got this was great. This is the first deck that I purchased after my original Rider-Waite because I wanted a Greek mythology oracle deck. And for a time, this did the trick. Ooh, a bunch of ice just fell off my roof. I wonder if you heard that. I've got icicles that are like the size of a human hanging off the side of my house right now. It's kind of scary. Should probably do something about those so no one gets hurt. Anyway, the Mythic Oracle. This is great. The best edge job I've ever done. Look at that. Gold. I love gold. Backs are cute. It's like a little bit big in the Oracle size department because there's not a million cards. It shuffles just fine. They're good and bendy. It's wonderful. Who makes this? This is by a weird publisher. Simon Pulse. Beyond Words. So it's okay. If you want a Greek mythology oracle deck that's mass market, this one is not bad. It's got some titans in it, it's got some heroes in it, it's got your regular pantheon, and, you know, Raven's art style is Raven's art style. I do find she kind of copies the templates a lot of the time, so like, I've seen that shape of human like 4 times in her decks. Like this, like, I feel like some of them get regurgitated a little bit. It's 45 cards. 45 works of art, even if it's digital, it's a lot of work. So, like, I get it, for sure. But anyway, I made the Hellenic Oracle deck, which is my Greek mythology oracle deck dreams come true. So I really never reach for this anymore. It's gonna go. I'm decluttering it. Not because it's bad, but because I have something in my rotation that's gonna get used 100% of the time instead of this one. Okay, the next deck that I'm getting rid of for sure, I say that, now I'm hesitating, is this one. This is the Ethereal Visions Illuminated Tarot, and this is a perfectly good tarot deck. It's by Matt Hughes. This is the mass market edition. And I think what has tainted this for me a little bit, I don't like the backs, that's one thing. And I'm learning that if I really don't like the backs of a deck, I'm less likely to pick it up. But there was a wee bit of drama surrounding the creation of this deck, which has kind of tainted it for me, which is weird because like I really don't care. Like if you were to ask me if I care, like I don't. But at the same time, there's like a little niggle in the back of my brain that's like, oh, you know, maybe not a great person, but maybe it's all blown up out of proportion because the internet does that sometimes. So I don't know, but for one reason or other, this delightful Rider-Waite Smith clone just doesn't get used. And I think also because it's a clone, I tend to, I'm more likely to just reach for the Rider-Waite Smith instead of a clone, even if it is pretty. So this one, I was sure that I was gonna get rid of it, move it on. It's still in good condition. Like, it's not even bowed. I didn't edge it because this is one that really doesn't need edged. The guidebook's not bad. There's 2 bonus cards, all that jazz. I started flipping through it and I'm like, well, maybe I'll keep it because it is nice. I don't know. But I was sure I was going to get rid of it because I never reached for it. And then I looked at it and thought, oh. But I think I do need to make a point to move that one out. Move it along. All right. Next one that I'm pretty sure. Oh, see, I look at them and I'm like, oh, you're so cute. This is Tarot of the Magical Forest, the tarot deck that contains absolutely 0 forest. It's funny. Yeah, there's no actual forest in any of the images. I guess the creatures are from the forest, so maybe that's why they called it that. But it's adorable. If you've never seen this deck before, it's a, again, Rider-Waite-Smith clone, but with adorable little creatures. Look at them. Look at that Hermit card. Oh my gosh, so cute. Really easy to read. Like, I feel like if I was ever reading for a kid's party, I would bring this deck because it's perfect. But when, pray tell, would I be reading for a kid's party? You see? See my point? This is the, we keep things, what if, but if, why do I have this? Well, I might need it for this, but like the chances of that thing ever actually happening are fairly slim. So anyway, this one is on the chopping block. It is great, it's an easy reader, but again, I'll probably just reach for my regular Rider-Waite-Smith instead, even though, look at that, look at the little six of wands. Anyway, that's a nice Low Scarabeo deck, which is, I love the shuffle, so good. Could use a trim, but I'm afraid to trim it because, as we've seen, when I trim things, I ruin them. So anyway, that's that one. I've got another shocker that, like, that's the thing. I thought I was gonna love every one of these when I bought them. I was like, yes, that's the one. And a lot of them, when I opened them for the first time, I was like, yes, this is so good. It's giving me all the feels. I'm getting such interesting, cool messages from them. And then time wanders on and I'm like, well, maybe I kind of overestimated the amount I was going to love this deck. And this one I think is one of them. This is Tarot of the Abyss by Anatolian, and I should love this. This is cool. It reads really well numerologically, but something about it just isn't deep enough for me, and I don't understand why. It's so strange. It's like a surface reader, and I feel like it shouldn't be. Like, I feel like I want more out of, like, it's like it just took the essence of tarot, turned it into a gorgeous picture in black and white, but it's just, I don't know, I get frustrated with this one. Everybody loves it so much, and I feel like I should too. Also, I don't like the quartz. The way she did the quartz, I'm not a fan. Anyway, yes, she's like, they're strung along in like a series of an image. They kind of tell their own story, but in the context of a reading, that story doesn't show up, and you have to like remember the story of each of the quartz and then pick out what you need from that aspect of the story. I don't know. I just find it makes understanding the quartz even more difficult than it already is. And I have a pretty good grasp of the quartz as a rule, so it confuses me more. And like some of them are this one in particular kind of threw me. This is a Page of Cups. And it's kind of hard to see. Like, there's a heart and it's supposed to be a map and he's on a ship. I don't know. I just don't get Page of Cups energy from this, like, at all. Or some other one, but some of them are really good, and like this one is a really good Five of Swords because he's got a little butterfly trapped in a jar. It's not, I can get some things from that, but then other ones are just kind of like, meh. I don't know. And Anatolian's artwork is, I like it. The perspective is wonderful. It's different than any deck I have, but I don't pick it up. So I don't know about this one. That's one that's on the chopping block, which is crazy to say. This is another one that I have mixed feelings about. It is the Dreaming Way. Tarot of the Dreaming Way? The Dreaming Way Tarot. Dreaming Way Tarot by Rum Choi. And this is another favorite among many. The backs are interesting. The little amoebas, kind of cute. Kind of match the front, kind of don't. I like this deck in theory. Everything about the artwork is cool. I like how it's a clone, but it knows it's a clone. Whereas I feel like with Tarot of the Abyss, for example, it's trying not to be a clone, but it kind of is. If you know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense. This one is a clone and it knows it's a clone. But the readings I get from this are extremely cold. This deck does not like me. What should be a good reading comes across as like snarky, and the voice of this deck is something that I don't particularly enjoy. But like I want to like it because the art's beautiful. But I don't know. It just reads in a way that makes me kind of like, I don't know, grumpy. If that makes any sense. I don't know. That's, again, this is the me problem. Like, I understand why people love it. It's a great little deck, but I don't know, man. It just rubs me the wrong way, that one. Canadian dollar store bag vibes. Yes! Love it. Couple more. This one I'm definitely getting rid of. And this one is the one that I'm getting rid of because it falls into the same category that this one kind of fell into. And I think I just don't jive with collage style dream interpretive artwork. This is the Dreamkeeper's Tarot by Liz Houston. And this was one of the, I don't know, I've had this a while. I've edged this one in silver, which was, I think, the best choice for edging, but I slightly regret it now. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Whatever. What have you. This is a US Games deck, and the art is really interesting, and that's what captivated me at the beginning, but I don't connect with this style of artwork. I think that's just what it boils down to. Collage style, slightly surreal artwork doesn't do it for me. And I think because it's the humans in it are based on, you know, like vintage photographs, the lack of emotion in their face creeps me out a little bit, which is funny because in a drawing of a human, like in the original Rider-Waite, there's not a lot of emotion in their face either, but it doesn't creep me out like these ones do. Like, it just gives me the willies. And I love a good dark deck, I really do, but maybe something about how this one comes across and how it's supposed to be like a soft and wonderful dreamy type deck, but I don't know, it's just not for me. And I tried reading with it again recently to just give it a shot, but it just didn't resonate, didn't hit. I thought maybe it was a wintry deck because of the like, not spooky, but the distant and cold nature of the images, because they are a little bit cold. They're not warm. This is not a hug deck. It kind of feels like you're alone on the moon with weird, I don't know. I should like it. It's weird. I should like it. I like weird things. But for some reason, it just didn't hit. So I tried using it again in the wintertime now, thinking that maybe that was the season for it, but I was gravely mistaken. And bottom line, this is just not a deck for me. So it's gonna go. Goodbye, Dreamkeeper's Tarot. You had great potential. I wanted to love you. Nope. The book's really good too. I will say too, the book that comes with it is, I like the meanings. The way she dissects tarot is really quite good. This is a good one for the book, but not for me. This one. I bought this. I will tell you I bought this because Sarah at Sunset Bow Tarot loves it so much. Her love for this deck sparked me. I thought, great, I need to have that. I'm gonna give this a try. And this is a case of other people's decks. So when you see someone else love a deck so much, you want, like, it reminds you of that connection that you have with some of yours, and you think that because they like it so much that you're gonna have that experience with the deck, and like 100% of the time that's not the case. So this deck is a mass market version. It's by Cat Black, Touchstone Tarot. It is a medieval style collage deck, maybe like later than Renaissance. It's like Henry VIII time, whatever time that is. Images, that have been collaged to reflect the tarot quite accurately. Like I like, it's really well done. So good. And I have her golden tarot, which is a more medieval version, and I like it. I will use it, which is so funny. But this one, because of the portrait style art, most of the characters are looking at you and they are looking right at your soul. I am being judged by this card when I pull it. What are you? You're the Page of Coins. Look at him. He is judging me. He says, what did you just spend your money on, woman? You're supposed to be reading and studying. How dare you? Anyway, this deck judges me. And I don't particularly like being judged by every single card. Some people like Sarah, for example. She's like, it's a handful of friends. They're like sitting around a table and you're having a chat and you're, you know. And it's so great that she gets that out of this deck. But for me, it just wasn't the case. I don't know. It's just, oh, this one makes me laugh. This is the Three of Swords. She's like, ooh, where did those come from? Anyway, it's not for me what I had hoped it would be. And I think this is a case of also expectation versus reality. So if you go into trying a new deck with really high expectations based on someone else's experience, chances are you're gonna be disappointed. Like, even if it really jives with you, it's not gonna sing for you in the way that it does for someone who's been working with it for so long, especially not right off the bat. So you're gonna feel disappointed. And no one wants that when they're working with a new tarot deck. Like, you want your expectations to be, you know, below what the reality is to have the best possible experience. So I learned that with this deck, and Sarah, you're a darling, wonderful gem, and I love that you love this deck, and I fundamentally understand why it is a good deck, but it is just not one for me, and I'm going to find a new home for it. And I need to stop flipping through it because part of me is like, maybe you do kind of want it, but nope. Nope, nope, nope. So, Touchstone Tarot, Cat Black. Finding a new home. There are 3 more that are like on the shopping block. And I think these 3 are the most likely to still stay based on, like, compared to all the other ones. But that being said, they're still here and I'm still talking about them. So, the first one is this one, this deck. Oh gosh, this one. This deck gave me like a couple of sleepless nights. I was so torn about whether or not I should get it. Maybe not torn, but like I wanted it really badly, but it wasn't in stock on their online shop and I had to wait, and I felt I needed it really, really badly to go with whatever, what have you. It was weird. I was having a weird time then. I eventually did get it, and I don't use it as much as I thought I would. And I also don't particularly like the way in which it shuffles, so I'm less likely to pick it up. This is the Revival Art 2 Tarot by Taroko Studios. I remember spending hours going through comparative walkthroughs of Revival Art 1 versus Revival Art 2 and meticulously figuring out which of the 2 I wanted more, and I spent a lot of time thinking about it, and all of that time thinking about it just made me like fuss over it so much more. And bottom line, it is just a tarot deck that has taken existing art, retrofitted to the tarot system, like wham bam, the end. I feel like these are incredibly overpriced for what they are. I think this ended up costing me like $80 Canadian, and that might have been before shipping. Or maybe that was with shipping. Anyway, it was a lot. That's a lot of money for a tarot deck, especially one that I don't vibe with, which is funny because, I don't know. Majestic Earth, same premise. Existing art, retrofit to the tarot system. It just works better, I think, for me. And this is a me problem. Some other people may get on with this way better than me, but I don't know. I feel like maybe it's the borders that are on it. I just find it really busy. I find it like, I don't know. It's all right. That should be the 10 of Cups, right? Yeah, that's the 10 of Cups. The vibe, like it matches the tarot structure really well. The images they chose for each tarot card are great. Yeah, you know, fundamentally beautiful. And it does read all right. But I don't love it as much as I thought I was gonna, which again, I think this is an expectation versus reality situation. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna keep it and like try it or not. It could go pretty well with my Hellenic Oracle, but I don't know. Does it feel more modern than my Hellenic Oracle? I don't know. This one I'm wrestling with at the moment. I'm doing some mental gymnastics around whether or not it's one I'm going to want to keep and use. Maybe this is a good one to keep to read for other people with. I don't know. Maybe I'm just expecting too much out of my tarot. Maybe I want them to give me everything. Maybe my experience with decks like the Thoth and the Marielle and, I don't know, to a point, Brian Froud's Fairies Oracle. Like, I expect more out of a tarot deck. And ones like this just don't give it to me. But it's fine because I love the Edmund Duloc so much and it's the same premise. So I don't know. There's so many mysteries in this world that just boggle my mind and I don't understand why. And sitting trying to flesh them out and like really understand them, what is the benefit of that really? Say I did really understand why this type of deck doesn't suit me while others do that are similar. If I did figure that out, what would the benefit of that be? Either way, I still have too many dang tarot decks, so. Anywho, this one is currently in limbo. We do not know what I'm going to do about it. The other deck that is in limbo, I have not had this one very long. I just got it at the end of last year. This is the 5th tarot. And these backs are bright. This deck is an assault on the senses. Yeah, so here's what the box looks like. Like, it's got that on it. This is an older deck. This is the 2nd edition of it though. Yeah, this printing was done in 2020, but the first one was done in 2008, and they've upgraded the cardstock. It's that like nice, it's a nice matte. It's got that beautiful matte gilding that we all love. Came with that on it. Is this, no, it's not still in order. The Fool just happens to be on top. The art style is interesting. What? I wanted this because I wanted something different. This has, it's called the 5th tarot because there's an extra suit, much like the tarot volatile. There's another suit in it. It's the suit of lotuses, so it's like the suit of like spirit soul. Like it's taking wands and going like up a level. A lot of the times when they throw in that fifth suit, it's kind of a like a faction of the wands. It's like, oh, it's the suit of spirit. Well, like wands can be that too. But it does take it a little bit further. However, my beef with this deck is not the color of the backs, which is very much not my aesthetic. The content of the guidebook is where it loses me. This deck is the most woo deck I've ever had. This is a tarot deck that reads like an oracle, which is really weird. I had an experience while I was going through it. I read the entire guidebook. A lot of the time when I get a deck that's, you know, got a guidebook that's like a reasonable amount, I will read it cover to cover before I even use the deck. And in this case, I read it and I just had this really weird feeling that this deck was just like glossing over anything negative in the world. And tarot specifically for me, the system is balanced on its own. And going out of your way to make it unbalanced and like sit comfortably in like the very light washed side of things didn't sit entirely right with me. There are references to, you know, extremely spiritual themes. You've got your like sacred geometry. I don't know if there's Kabbalah in here, but they talk about crystals a lot. This is a really new agey deck, is I guess the best way to say it. I was hoping, like what they say on the front of it here is alchemy of the 5 elements. And then the back, oh, the box is somewhere else, but I thought it was going to be more elemental. And like, usually when you get an elemental deck, it really leans into the numerology as well. So you get like a nice elemental numerological deck, which is my sweet spot for like a perfect type of tarot deck. But this one does not do that. It reads like an oracle. Choking over my words here. I'm going to pull a random card here from the middle, and I'm just gonna read you from the guidebook, and we'll see what it says. And we'll also take this as like a bit of a note as to whether or not it is comfortable in its situation within my collection. So 9 of shells. Gratitude. Oh dang, okay. So this would be the 9 of cups, which we all know is the wish card. This is the happy man sitting in front of full wine glasses. Cups, 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 cups. So there's also a big book that goes along with this that I didn't get for some strange reason. The big book probably has more detail surrounding the symbolism that's involved in the images of the cards, as opposed to this one, which is, it really just looks like a Hay House Oracle book with like a little blurb under the image, which is fine, but I'm hesitant to get the big book in case it's just more of the same on a bigger level. So anyway, we'll see. I do like though how in each of the minors, the stones are all crystals, and there's a different one in each of them, so you can work with that crystal energy if you want. The shells, it's a different kind of shell in each one, so if you can relate to each of those kinds of animal energy, you can. And then feathers, it's a different bird's feather, so especially if you're into birds, each number in the suit is a different type of feather, which is cool, instead of it all being the same. And then so stones, feathers, yeah, wands are just fire, so fire's fire. Doodly-doo. Okay, we're reading the guidebook for the 9 of shells. You are blessed with emotional richness and abundance. Let go in sweet surrender to the flow of abundance that flows from the lamp of cosmic light. You know from whence your gifts come, and with gratitude keep a clear perspective on what is truly important. Share your light, gifts, and abundance with others in expressions of gratitude. The outcome is an endless amount of gifts and emotional support. Now this is probably not the best card to explain my hypothesis about this deck. I don't know if you can tell by the tone of that it uses your spiritual buzzwords in a way that I don't enjoy. We've got a lot of manifesting, abundance, you know. I'm surprised I didn't use the word vibe a whole lot. I don't know. I don't know if it's for me. I do like the art though, in a way. If I divorce this deck from its guidebook, I might be able to work with it a little bit better, but I don't know. That is a long-winded approach to the 5th tarot by Martin and Teresa Bacons. And I think this is an independent deck. I ordered it straight from them and their website. I was in a weird mood the day I bought this too. I remember being like, I just want something different, and I got what I wished for, didn't I? So anyway, okay, that's that one. I've belabored that one long enough. The last deck that I have in my possession that is on the chopping block is an Oracle deck. And it is the Green Witch Oracle by Sherilyn Darcy, published by Rockpool. This one's actually, I don't mind it. I would never read with it on its own. I always would grab for it at the end of a reading to just add a bit of humor and lightness to the reading. I always just say, I'm gonna pull you a vegetable. It's not just vegetables, but there are vegetables. Vegetables, fruits, herbs, and I think there's another one. Herbs, fruits, and flowers. So it's like a good mix of gardening type things. The reason it's on the chopping block is I don't use it all that often, and I think half of the reason is because I still keep it in its box, and I'm learning that I am way more likely to grab a deck that's in a bag than in a box. I like them free. I don't like them trapped in their boxes. So maybe if I free it, I will use it more often and just kind of, you know, treat it with the whimsy with which I enjoyed using it. But, you know, it's great. The messages are like a soft and gentle oracle would do. There's like tips on how to grow each of the things as well, which if you know like anything about gardening, it's all pretty basic. But that's fine. It's nice. There's also sometimes recipes, sometimes little spells with them, magical correspondences, and like a brief oracle meaning too, but you know, it's pretty simple. It's not very deep, which is fine. It's just like a nice flourish on top of a reading, especially a heavy one that might, you know, add not necessarily clarity, but just wrap it up in a moment of lightness and whimsy, which I appreciate. So I'll show you some of the cards. There's an onion. Like, who wouldn't want to get an onion after their tarot reading? And there's a keyword on it. It says protection. It also says onion, and then it gives its Latin name as well, which is nice. I always appreciate a nice Latin name. And then there's little squiggles around the doodles, some of which are important. And you got your elemental symbol on them as well. So they've, you know, given them elements which I can work with as well, which is really quite nice. But yeah, this is the Green Witch Oracle, and maybe this is just a case of me needing to pull it out more. Like, it's fennel. Anyway, the sweet limes are luck. Potatoes are grounding. Of course potatoes are grounding. Why wouldn't they be? Violets are tranquility. Beetroot's passion. Like, it's simple. It's nice. I think this is one I just need to use and not expect too much from it. Just kind of, you know, give myself permission to play with it, basically, instead of like serious work. Not all my decks need to be serious work. So maybe that one is the most likely to stay of all of them. I just need to free it from its box. Maybe give it a bag, let it sit out on the... Maybe I'll just keep it in my shed. Maybe I'll keep it in the garden shed this summer and then just use it that way. Or bring it along with me to readings for other people. I don't know. I just feel like the method in which I use this one needs to be altered in order to get the most out of it. So, okay, I think we did it. And I have a smattering of decks everywhere now, but I think I counted previously, and the number of decks that I'm either decluttering or on the chopping block is like 13 or 14. So yeah, that's an analysis of the decks that are kind of just like filling space around me that I'm not getting the most out of. So it's a little bit vulnerable of me to kind of like spew that all out on the internet, but it's good to talk it through and just like really understand with myself where I sit with each of these and where they need to go. So that was a fun time. Okay. So regarding the depth here, I think I have spent a good amount of time sorting through the clutter that was in my brain, which is nice to get that kind of pushed aside. I have been spending like intentional amount of time with a handful of decks that I planned on working with, which is great. I would like to spend a bit more time reading, but like actual books, but we're getting there. It's only the first month and so far so good. I have not purchased a new deck this year, so right now it's at about, I'm at about 5 weeks of not buying another deck, which is great. I've got 5 that are like in transit to me. 2 Kickstarters, 2 pre-orders, and 1 is getting sent to me for review, which is kind of interesting and exciting, and we're gonna give it a go. I'm really kind of excited about that one. Sneak peek. That would be my next video probably. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, woo, top secret. If you made it to this part of the video, you get a bit of a surprise about that one. Those 5 decks will keep me well occupied. Any of the other ones that were on my wish list have not been released yet, so that won't be an issue at the moment for a while. I don't want to get like too excited about it too soon, but I am quite proud about, you know, how I've behaved so far this year. It's only been a month, but you know, I've had moments where I've been like browsing just for funsies, but I have, you know, held back and not given myself the permission to buy the thing because I don't need it. And another thing that I did that helped, don't do this unless you're really, if you're a collector of tarot and you don't keep a catalog, I wouldn't recommend doing it unless you want to have like the earth shaken underneath you. If you had asked me how many tarot decks I had a rough number in my head, but one day I sat down and I made a spreadsheet. I made the spreadsheet. I listed every tarot deck I had, including duplicates, including like all of my Lenormand, Deste, Sibylla decks, which there's only 1 of each of those, but still, that's 3 extra things. And like I said, the duplicates, any deck that I had considered like outside of the collection. So all of these, which were like in purgatory, but like I counted them. I counted everything, plus the ones that were coming in. So I got like a grand total of decks that were in my possession and a couple that I'd already decluttered. So there's 3 decks that I have in fact already sold that I had, which I guess would be poignant to mention them here. One was the Work Your Light Oracle by Danielle Newell and Rebecca Campbell. One was the Botanical Impressions, is that right? The flowery one. The US Games deck. I just wasn't using it and I sold it, and I'm glad I did. I have no regrets there. And then the last one was, there's 2 oracles, and was one a tarot? No, it was an oracle. Oh, it was the Rackham Fairy Oracle, which was a low Scarabeo deck, and that one irritated me because it was only like 30 something cards, which is stupid. And I have a Rackham Oracle, a Rackham Tarot, and the Duloc Tarot, and like that covers it. Didn't need it, so I sold it, and I was happy about that. So that was fine. But anyway, I added everything up, and it came to a number that shocked me to the core because I really didn't think it was that big. So it's just reinforced my need to pare things down a little bit, focus on what I already have, and like just definitely not buy anymore. And I'm hesitant to say the number because it's everybody's like max capacity point is different. Some people having like 10 decks is going to be too many. Some people having 1,000 decks is fine. Like where you are in your tarot journey is entirely personal and entirely up to you. I just want to say that I got to a pretty significant milestone. Like I was just over a significant milestone of a number, and it was too many. I never thought I would have that many. So we are narrowing down, we are focusing in. Depth year so far is a roaring success, and I'm still really excited about the rest of the year because there's still so many decks that I have that I want to work with that I'm like super excited to get to know. And like the more you get to know them, I find the more I figure out what it is I want to work with ultimately. And I think the more I work with them, the more I'm going to be able to declutter more of them, realize that things are not for me, and really focus in and hone my tarot practice into something that is going to serve me well for a very long time. Because the thing about buying stuff, this is the same for anything. When you buy something, it exists forever. It is now in your possession to like foster through the rest of its life. Like it always exists. It is now yours forever. Like you're now its steward in a way. So just like willy-nilly buying things just because I'm kind of sad is not a good way to take on new physical items in your life, I guess, is what I'm kind of trying to say. So anyway, those are some fun little tidbit type insights I have gleaned so far from my month of depth. Only 11 more depth months to go. Fun times. I'm excited. Like I said, I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun time. So you know what I want to do? I want to pull us a card. I haven't pulled us a card in a while. Let's use the all these decks in front of me. I grabbed the Outgrow Yourself Oracle. I love this. It's so good. Okay, I'm gonna pull us a card because I want to close off the last month of depth and open up the next month of depth with a message. We had one fly out. What do we got? Oh, we got the Fool. Yes. Okay, it says the oracle message on this one says grow through life, and it is the Fool, and we all know about the Fool. Everybody knows about the Fool. It is that confidently naive innocence that takes us on adventures and gives us the gumption to take on experiences in life, and I really appreciate that. And I still, at this point in my tarot journey, I still feel like the Fool. I am still that nonchalant, whimsical human taking a step into something that I know still very little about on the grand scheme of things, and hoping for the best, and worst case scenario, I gain some delightful experience. And that is wonderful. Okay, yes, love that. Going into month 2 of depth with the Fool at my side. I appreciate that. Appreciate that greatly. Oh my gosh, to be on a cliff. It's funny, I was just waxing poetic about the sublime nature of mountains and like the grand open spaces, and you can imagine being the Fool there, stepping off this cliff, and there being that vast, sublime emptiness in front of him. Ah, I miss that feeling. I need to climb a mountain. Someone give me a mountain that I can climb. There's no mountains here where I live. It's very flat, unfortunately, so maybe I'll just need to find a tall hill and climb on top of my car and look out at something to get that feeling back a little bit. But anywho, thank you so much for being here. I really quite appreciate it. It's, I think, turned into another wonderfully long video, so if you made it to the end, thank you very much. I wanted to do one of those things where I say something secret and then you say it in the comments so I know that you made it to the end. What's the secret thing I'm going to say? Oh, I always do pineapple, but why not? Say pineapple in the comments sneakily. Hide it in a sentence so no one knows that that's why. and I'll know you made it to the end, and it'll be a fun time. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I will see all of you fine people in my next video. Bye.